Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The IBF has rewarded Joseph Parker, Adam Kownacki and Oscar Rivas in its latest update of its rankings. So if we go to the top of the rankings here, Kubrat Pulev remains at number 1. He's the mandatory challenger. He will get an eventual title shot at the IBF strap, whoever holds it at the time. We just don't know what's going to happen with his title shot because it could be up to a year away. But he has indicated he is going to stay busy, and there's lots of talk about him fighting Robert Helenius on March 23rd in Los Angeles. That date has been confirmed as Pulev's next fight date. The opponent, it's not confirmed though, but there's been plenty of speculation it will be Helenius. And actually, I like that fight. That represents more than just a sort of a tick-over fight. There is some risk there with Robert Helenius, a big guy, powerful puncher, but can he come in there motivated and will he not be injured? Because that has hobbled his career in recent years. Robert Helenius was once touted as one of the next guys, the big guys, to really make some noise in the heavyweight division, and it's just never really quite panned out. Number 2 in the rankings here, not rated. Number 3, Ajit Kabayel. He's got a fight coming up in March against Andrei Rudenko. He was due to face Ato Wollen, but that was postponed after Wollen's trainer was attacked in New York. Rudenko, that's a good sort of, I don't want to say tick-over fight because he's a tough, durable guy, but Ajit Kabayel will be the heavy favourite. I would say he will outbox him over 12 rounds, probably get a decision. And number 4, Adam Kownacki. He's up 1 place from a month ago. That's courtesy of his recent win over Gerald Washington. That really was a statement win, stopping Washington in the second round. And Kownacki, he's got decent rankings across a number of sanctioning bodies now, so he is a guy with options. Be interesting to see where they take him next, what the next fight would be. But I would imagine it will be within the PBC stable. And number 5, Ato Wollen. It's a bit unclear what he will do next. Will he take another fight before a Kabayel fight? Because he is still the mandatory to Kabayel's EBU title. Obviously, Kabayel's got to keep winning, and Wollen himself, if he does take another fight, he's got to win that to get through. I think it's likely that Wollen probably won't fight anyone in the interim, no stay busies or anything. I think he will wait for Kabayel. And the winner of that fight, because Ato Wollen is rated across a couple of sanctioning bodies, as is Kabayel, and Kabayel obviously rated very high in the IBF, they stand to potentially get a title shot if they can keep working and winning, potentially sometime the back end of next year, 2020. So they will keep positioning themselves until then. They won't be able to do much before the end of 2020 effectively because of, you know, what the logjam in the WBC with that belt, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, others in line for title shots, and also Anthony Joshua has got a couple of fights that will be booked up this year that won't be those guys. So they just need to keep, not treading water, but they need to keep winning, looking good, putting themselves in position and in the conversation. At number 6, Robert Helenius, and if he fights Kubrat Pulev, that is a decent fight for him, and if he can fight and beat Pulev, pull off an upset, then he could take that mandatory status off Kubrat Pulev, and that really would be a turn for the books for Robert Helenius, who kinda until recently had been on a bit of a downslide of his career. He lost to Dillian Whyte in a terrible fight at the back end of, 2017. He's had a couple of wins in 2018, and he beat Erkentepper more recently in destructive fashion. That's really got people looking at him going, is he ready? And is he in the right space to potentially pull off a good upset or two and really put himself in the conversation for a title shot? And he's got power, and he's obviously got the height, and you can't teach height. So that represents some risk to Kubrat Pulev should that fight be made. But I think Pulev would be the favourite, but Helenius is not without a shot in that one. Oscar Rivas, he is up 3 places in this month's IBF rankings. He's actually been rewarded across all the sanctioning bodies for his recent win over Bryant Jennings. That was a 12th round knockout of Jennings, and if you look at the rankings here, you don't see Bryant Jennings' name. He was previously in the rankings, I think he was about 8th, but he's gone altogether this month. And the IBF, like some of the other sanctioning bodies, can be absolutely ruthless, and Bryant Jennings tossed from the rankings altogether. But Rivas, 7th in the IBF here, and if we just have a look at the WBA, also 7th in the WBA. And if we have a look at the WBO, he was installed in 4th spot in the WBO rankings. Previously, he was not in the rankings at all in the WBO, and Bryant Jennings slid all the way from 2nd in these rankings to 10th. And the WBC, Oscar Rivas, he is at 16th, just outside the top 15. But for my thoughts and the updates on the WBC, the WBO, and WBA rankings, I did include little bits and pieces when those updates were released in my heavyweight news and brief videos of the past week or so. So all three are covered in different videos, so if you want to check that out, go check out those videos. At number 8 in the IBF, Cuban contender Luis Ortiz, who's been calling out Anthony Joshua saying, look, I'm available. If you really want to fill that April the 13th date at Wembley, call me, pay me almost anything, and I'll accept it. Also, Ortiz is saying if things don't work out with Jarrell Miller and you want to fight someone in the United States in June, I'm also available. To me, it would seem like a very outside and remote possibility at this point. It seems like Miller and Joshua is all but done, and it's just really waiting for an announcement now. At number 9, we have Tom Schwarz, who will be on the undercard of the Arjit Kabiel and Andrei Rudenko fight in Germany, so we'll have to see how he gets through that. Really need to see him start taking steps up in 2019. He's in a lot of sanctioning body rankings now, but he's not fighting anyone to really deserve some of these placings, so I've been on him a little bit, but he needs to step it up. Michael Hunter, a guy who took 2 late notice fights in 2018, potentially a fight in the works with Carlos Takam for April. We'll have to see what happens there. There's been some talk from Eddie Hearn that he'd like to make that fight. That was one that he wanted to make for December on the undercard of Chisora and White, that pay-per-view event. It never happened. Michael Hunter said, look, I don't want to keep taking fights at last minute. I want to have a proper build-up, especially for a fight of that risk. And who can blame him? And if they can get that fight made, it's a very good fight. I like that fight, especially for Michael Hunter. I think Carlos Takam, 38 and slowing down, and I think he's right for the picking. Sergey Kuzmin at number 11. Filip Hrgovic, he hasn't got a fight date announced yet. He's at number 12. At number 13, Joseph Parker. He re-enters the IBF ranking. Until now, since he lost his belt, he'd only been ranked in the WBC. He is 5th in the WBC at the moment, but he enters the IBF following that win over Alexander Flores in December 2018. He's at 13 in this month's update. We have Huey Fury at 14. We'll have to see what happens with Huey Fury. There's been talk that he may come out again in April or May, sort of dependent on the injury that he sustained to his eye or re-injured in that Kubrat Pulev fight. He had that cut open and sparring ahead of the Kubrat Pulev fight, opened up in that fight, and it did give him some trouble in the Pulev fight, but he didn't look great in that fight regardless of that injury. But Huey Fury, no fight date yet. And Andy Ruiz, he's looking to get back in the ring. He's been calling some guys out. He's at 15th in this month's IBF rankings, signed with PBC. He wants an Adam Kownacki fight or another fight just to get him back into the division. He's been out for a while, had some promotional issues with Top Rank, but he's back now, so it'll be good to see him back soon with the fight date scheduled. I wouldn't mind seeing him against potentially Charles Martin, someone like that, but we'll have to see. He says he's going to be back in April the 20th, I think he said, and I think Charles Martin said he was looking to be back in the ring at about that date. So if they got that fight made, that would be a good one, Andy Ruiz and Charles Martin, but we'll have to see. Anyway, what do you make of it all? So we have Adam Kownacki rising the ranks to number 4 in the IBF rankings following his win over Gerald Washington recently. Oscar Rivas up 3 places from 10th last month, and that's after his win over Bryant Jennings. And Joseph Parker re-enters the rankings after quite a long hiatus from the IBF rankings. He's in there at 13. He's beaten Alexander Flores recently. Some talk he may face Derek Chisora in April. We'll have to see. They've got some options there for Parker. No fight date confirmed at the moment. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out. If you want even more boxing content, come and join me on Patreon. Every week on a Sunday, I drop a new video on something topical or thought-provoking from the heavyweight division, ranging from rankings, the business of boxing, the false economy of deluded fanboys, the twists and turns in the division, to assessments of fighters and their statements. I hope to see you there, and for more information go to patreon.com/boxing squared. The address is on screen now.